What is this?
You want burgers, hot dogs, some chicken, and ribs. Yeah! Yeah! Yeah!
Night of the Horror File.
Girl, you'll be a werewolf.
This is why I don't like you
soon.
to do openers.
Girl, oh, bum, bum, bum. You'll be a werewolf. Oh, welcome
I have
back
to live with this. Feel sorry for me.
Oh, it's not so bad. You get like neat little songs like this popping up when I barely have a musical bone in my body.
Whatever.
You know.
Your mom thinks you're going to be a famous
according
singer.
to my mom, I should have went on American Idol and I would have won it.
Yeah.
I would have won the whole thing. Thanks, Ma. Thank you. But no, we're not talking about my lack of skill. We are talking about werewolves this month. Welcome to Night of the Horror File, a horror movie and genre film podcast where we take a horror movie and genre film and have Brittany watch it to her dismay at time to time. Hopefully not this week. I have high hopes for this week. I'm not sure though.
I was going to say, you don't even know.
Because this is a movie that I feel like needs to be repeat viewed to really like grasp what it's going for. Especially when compared to other movies. Joe Dante has a weird sense of humor, but we'll get into it. So what did we watch this week?
The Howling.
The Howling. And of course...
Wait. I figured it out.
Oh!
Calm down. Calm down there.
Holy
No.
shit!
No. What we watched was not American Werewolf in London.
No, we did not watch American. We talked about this and I was like, because, Brittany fucking loved American Werewolf in London.
Yes.
Which we watched that last week. And she fucking loved it. And then she saw this movie, which is still a good werewolf movie, but it's completely different from that. A different tone, different sense of humor, different everything.
Yeah.
So it was quite the whiplash for you, I feel. Because we'll talk about it at the end of this episode, but first, it is Werewolf Month, I guess is what we're calling it. I don't know. There's no real theme this month. It's just all the movies are werewolf movies.
It's the month of the wolf.
The month of the wolf. Ooh. So while last week was a perfect blend of comedy and horror, this week is more a straightforward werewolf movie with a little bit of in-jokes. Okay, not a little bit, a lot of in-jokes. And a lot, there's a good helping of Dick Miller here that we'll get to here later. So we got our gratuitous dick in this episode, which we've covered Dick Miller several times on this show.
Have we?
Oh yeah, remember Piranha? Walter Paisley.
Okay.
He basically plays Walter Paisley in every movie he's ever in. But anyway, now we find ourselves in the dawn of the 1980s. If you noticed, both last week's and today's episodes were dropped on us in 1981. Now, before this, I think I mentioned this on the last episode, but before this, there hadn't been a successful werewolf flick in ages. Yes, there had been werewolf movies, but not so much, not so much Hollywood, big Hollywood features and stuff. Well, this wasn't really that big of a Hollywood feature, but you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Such
a popular werewolf movies. There had been, but they were kind of lame, unless you're like me and love everything. But... But slashers were more dominating around this time. They would end up taking over the 1980s, really. Not long before this, you had Halloween in 1978, which brought horror into the suburbs. And the idea of villagers and monsters terrifying the European countryside, or just the countryside in general, it wasn't really considered a winner by giant studios, So no one was clamoring to make werewolf features. However, we got 3 of them in the same year, which kind of kicked off the werewolf boom of the 1980s. And it's really weird because no one can really pinpoint why. It's just all of a sudden 3 werewolf movies came out and werewolves were everywhere. It happens in this genre from time to time, a few successful movies based around the same kind of element come out and boom. You know, remember when The Walking Dead came on TV? There was nothing but zombies.
Oh, yeah.
Zombies as far as the eye could see. The poor werewolf had already been through years of modernizations by this point, you know, having its traditional myths stripped away by films like The Werewolf of Washington, where a werewolf goes to Washington. Or Werewolves on Wheels, which is a movie about a bunch of biker werewolves. You know, the scare factor was really going away, and it was more about the novelty of the whole monster. You know,
Did you just say werewolves on motorcycles?
Yes, Werewolves on Wheels. It is a biker movie combined with a werewolf movie. It's very weird.
That's the stupidest thing I ever heard.
It's the stupidest movie ever.
And I watched The Howling.
Oh, so. but you know me, Werewolves on Wheels is a good time. But anyway, so the subgenre was kind of losing its canines by the time these three picks came. Yeah, you get it?
See what you did there.
You see what I did there? Everybody still listening? Did you guys unsubscribe yet? But by the time these three were released in theaters, you know, 1981, it officially reinstated the international monster back to its glory, I think, in my opinion. Those three were, of course, An American Werewolf in London from last week, Wolfen, which we'll get to later this month, and, of course, The Howling, which we are covering today. Now, based on the 1977 novel by the same name by Gary Bradner, The Howling was purchased by producer Stephen A. Lane and director Jack Conrad to bring to Avco Embassy. The problem was there were huge concerns by the studio as to where Conrad and Lane were trying to steer the film. I haven't read much about their problems, but I think what they were doing was trying to make a more faithful adaptation of Gary Bradner's book. Now, okay. Gary Bradner's book, it's gonna sound like I'm gonna trash it a few times during this, but that's because Joe Dante trashed it publicly.
Really?
To the point where he was at a convention one time or something where he was speaking. And he was on TV. I don't think this made the cut, but he was talking about how he hated the book. And all of a sudden, this guy, you know, raises up to ask a question. He's like, so you hated the book, huh? Well, I wrote the book. Completely stole the words out of his mouth. So it's going to sound like I'm kind of trashing it, but I'm really not. I enjoy the book, The Howling. Like, it's a very good book for what that is. You know, for a movie, it would have been boring as sin. Because the book more deals with the trauma part of this story today. You know, they scrapped basically almost every element of the book to bring it to the screen. Okay. So I guess what you would say is The Howling, the movie, is loosely based on the 1977 novel. I think that would be more of an accurate description.
Okay.
So anyway, Conrad and Lane were out. So Avco Embassy turned to Roger Corman's New World Pictures stable of up-and-comers. And we've talked about Roger Corman before on this show. We need to do like a whole series of Roger Corman. We could do it. We could literally do a Corman month and get away with it. There's so much to learn about Roger Corman.
Please don't.
I feel like people are like,
Please
all
don't.
right. So he said learning, and he mentioned a dad joke early on. I think Ned Flanders hosts a horror podcast. I'm turning it off.
Howdy ho, neighbor. Are you surprised I knew that? I knew that.
That was funny. That was funny. I
was surprised I knew that.
We're talking werewolf diddlies. All right. Whoa, that sounded dirty. Anyway. Now, they turned to Roger Corman's stable of up-and-comers, and producer Michael Fennell and screenwriter John Sayles, and of course, Joe Dante, who we have covered before in our episode on Piranha. Now, a few people had taken a crack at the screenplay to The Howling, but John Sayles, Joe Dante, and Michael gutted most of it. Like I said, tossed most of the book out to create something that could stand on its own. They infused the horror of a werewolf story with the biting social commentary in the famous Joe Dante humor. I will talk about the humor in this movie because to me, The Howling's very funny. But it's an odd humor. It's one of those read between the lines satire kind of shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know.
Like, that's what I mean by you got to kind of watch it again. like Piranha. I think Piranha is a hilarious movie, and not just for the kitschy low budget feel of it. No, it's funny. It's just like, this is funny when you realize what they're making fun of. It kind of well, first of all, you kind of have a send up of self-help groups. The traditional going out to the fucking wilderness to get away and heal with a self-help group, and in which they are all turn out to be fucking monsters. So it's just usually the case. It even pokes fun at horror films itself. Like, I'll talk about that later, where Joe Dante's kind of humor was a little before its time, especially in this movie. Something that Scream would take to amazing heights later on. But
we're referencing Scream again.
It is so hard. What has happened to me? It is so hard not to reference that fucking movie.
Are you trying to say that Scream is the best movie ever made?
It's not the best movie ever made, but it is a very revolutionary movie. Like how what's really fucking funny? I haven't referenced The Wolfman, the classic movie, like once so far this month.
So what are you trying to say?
I don't know. I think it's because we did that whole month of just dull movies until we hit Scream. And by comparison, it was the best movie ever made. I think that's what happened to my brain. We got a lot to discuss, obviously. So let's dive into The Howling from 1981.
So we're thrown into a vat of boiling liquid. I don't know what I was going to say.
Did you kill yourself along with me this time?
Why did I say we?
Yeah, you.
When I'm talking about we, I ain't talking about me. We being you, and only you.
It's only me. Somebody does get acid to the face in this. Poor Robert Picardo gets fucked up in this movie.
Well, I mean, rightfully so.
Oh God, Robert Picardo is the sleaziest I've ever seen him in this fucking movie. But anyway, so I think this is a rare occasion where the movie is actually better than the book, but it is important to remember to kind of separate the two, especially with this, because this movie is nothing like that book. That book deals with sexual trauma and stuff like that. It deals with a lot of like rape issues and shit, stuff that you did not need in this fucking werewolf movie. That would have been a weird turn. John Sayles had rewritten Piranha not long before this. So, of course, that's why, Joe Dante would bring him along. The one awesome thing they do here is they don't take long lengths of time to explain what a fucking werewolf is.
Thank goodness.
You know how I feel about that.
Yes.
Well, in any movie, aside from the movies that came out in the 50s.
Right.
And if you're doing like a throwback movie, that's fine, to have your little scientist.
But we don't need 10 years on it.
We don't need 10 years, especially with a fucking werewolf. Right. We don't need to be explained what a werewolf is at this time. Because even though we hadn't had a lot of werewolf movies, we still knew what a fucking werewolf was at this time. And the characters in this movie actually know it too, if you notice. Yes. There's not a lot of question. Once werewolves are revealed, it's like, oh, now we're fighting werewolves. That's what we're doing here.
They were like, yep, this is it.
Yeah, this is werewolves, you guys. You heard of werewolves. It really is like that. That's what's funny about it. And another thing. Oh, sorry. And there's another thing I love is there is a lot of free will to our werewolves today. It's not just another story of, and no offense to an American Werewolf in London, but it's not just another story of a poor guy getting bit and being cursed, and you don't have to wait to the full moon.
Right.
There's absolutely no reliance on the full moon in this.
So we are thrown into a TV station. The men are talking about murders that have happened in the city. And then we meet Karen, who is talking on the phone with a man named Eddie. She's wired into the TV station and the signal is bad, so they can't really hear what's going on.
Yeah.
And they're trying to link this Eddie person to the murders since he's been stalking Karen.
And right off the bat, we have Dee Wallace in this movie, and she's no stranger to fighting furry beasts as she would face off against Cujo and the critters, of course.
Oh,
and she was also E.T.'s mom. Yeah.
I thought I've seen her before.
Well, actually, she wasn't E.T.'s mother. She was Elliot's mother, but E.T. Anyway.
She was the mom on E.T.
Yeah. I'm sure everybody was like, E.T. had a mom? I don't remember that.
I'm sure nobody said that.
It was on the updated one. Anyway, the one where they replaced the guns with walkie-talkies.
When you said
But-
the updated one, for some reason it made me think of porn.
Oh God, have you ever seen the ET porn?
No,
Oh, it is frightening.
I don't plan on.
It's a person in
seeing
the ET mask they painted brown.
it. Okay.
It almost feels racist. Like I feel like it's racist. I don't know. Anyway. Anyway, but she's awesome in any role she plays, and she's become like a horror icon and stuff like that. But I like where we are dropped into this story. You know, we're automatically dropped into this fucking busy ass news station. Plus, man, did TV journalists do this back in the day? Do they do this now, where they try to fucking hunt down a serial killer? Is this a thing?
I don't know.
Like, because this news station is doing more to hunt down this serial killer than the actual police.
Right.
Like, you even see like the fucking her boss and his girlfriend or something go out to find Eddie's apartment. It's like the cops were never here. Like, what
I have no idea.
we don't see a lick of cop until we really, well, not really, like a lick of police until we get to fucking
The colony?
Werewolfville, yeah, with fucking Slim Pickens, who we'll get to in a little while. But anyway, I don't know. I just feel like this is a very good news station. But one thing I love about this movie, though, is the humor. And they are really like poking it to how news is like super fucking shallow and fake, and how they make like such a big, they sensationalize violence whenever possible and stuff like that. And that's what this fucking whole thing is. You know, you even see like in the bathroom, my favorite part is like one of the newscasters, he's sitting there practicing his lines. He's like, today, Channel 5, you know, and then the dude comes in. He's like, you sure do got a brave girl out there, Bill. It just shows how like fucking fake all that shit is.
Right.
But now, by the way, these early scenes, we see Karen on a phone with Eddie, you know, during these things. Now, there is a guy who enters the phone booth right after her, and that's a little cameo from Roger Corman himself.
Oh.
Yeah. He even checks the phone for change, which has to be a penny pinching joke, you know, because Roger Corman was famous about saving money.
Oh, really?
Cutting costs. Yeah. There are a few cameos like this throughout the movie that I'll probably point to. You know, obviously you have Dick Miller, the biggest. He's in every Joe Dante movie ever made.
Who is he?
Dick Miller, he plays the bookstore owner.
Oh, okay.
He was the
You
town.
did say
I think he was the mayor in Piranha.
Okay.
We haven't covered a shit ton of Dick Miller,
Right.
but he has popped up a lot. Like he was in Night of the Creeps, where he played Walter Paisley again. He always plays Walter Paisley in these movies. But also in that bookshop later on, like I said, you know, you got Forrest J. Ackerman, you guys.
Yeah.
Forrest motherfucking J. Ackerman.
Yeah.
Brittany has no idea, but Forrest J. Ackerman was the one who started Famous Monsters Filmland, which is like kind of a predecessor to Fangoria. It has nothing to do with Fangoria, but it's still going on, I think. Is Famous Monsters of Filmland still a thing? I wonder.
Google was your friend.
Oh, yeah, Google. I think I'm old. I think the worst job ever would be to work in a news station.
Okay. Are news people not just like, not the weathermen, okay? Not the meteorologists. Like, we're not going to count them.
Okay.
But what do you call them? The anchors?
The anchors, yeah.
Aren't they just actors?
I mean, basically, yeah. These people are not like I remember, which by the way, we're talking like movie wise, you know, real life. Like these people are just like fucking, like you said, paid actors. They don't fucking care.
Right. They're reading off of a teleprompter.
Yeah, they're reading off of teleprompters and like faking emotions. But I remember, you know, it's true though. These people are not the same as you see them on TV, which I think confuses some people because like my sister had a Halloween party and one of the anchors from like Channel 6 News or something dropped off his kid there. And he came to pick up his kid, and I got to meet him and stuff. I can't remember the guy's name. This is a local TV anchor, you guys, so you're not going to know him. But I got to meet him, and he's not like what he is on TV.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, which I mean, it's not like he was a dickhole or anything. He was just a normal guy. But like,
when that bedbug incident happened at my old job, well, the building of my old job, the dude was down there. And he would not interview anybody And I was like, why are you not doing interviews? Like,
well, I think there are.
I don't know. It was like really weird.
I have a feeling there's laws to protect things from this, like what we see in this movie
But
happening.
like he could have like said that. There was a bunch of people around. Like he could have addressed the situation and been like, hey, we're taking care of this. We can't do interviews or whatever.
oh, true.
Instead, he was hiding.
You said he was hiding. I just pictured this fucking TV anchor in the bushes. Like,
Literally
all right.
behind the waterfall as far as he could go. You know that waterfall?
Well, probably because he'd be escorted off the premises.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, he was turning over chairs at the DMV.
Oh, see,
Yeah.
okay, so he was, getting into it,
Mhm.
only not luring a serial killer in a porn shop as we're about to get.
No. He was investigating bed bugs.
Not the same.
At the DMV of all places.
Werewolf bed bugs?
Yeah. You chop their heads off and they come back. Anyway, not chop their heads off, but never mind. Anyway, so Karen ends up going to a porn theater to meet Eddie. And since the station can't hear her on the transmitter, they call the police to assist.
Finally.
When she turned around to see who Eddie is, she gets traumatized. Then the police show up and shoot Eddie for no reason, really. Like, or we find out later why, but like.
Which, by the way, the fakest thing in this movie, the most unbelievable thing in this werewolf movie is the fact that they're trying to hold this cop responsible for shooting this guy who was unarmed. For shooting an unarmed man.
Right.
But then again, he's white. So,
Yeah.
well, maybe that. Anyway.
So afterwards, they're asking her questions, and she says she doesn't remember anything. She has amnesia now.
It's a very uncomfortable fucking scene in this one. It's creepy, man. This movie goes from like, for some reason at the very beginning of this movie, this like scene feels like something from like a gritty fucking cop movie from the 1980s. Like a fucking, you expect Charles Bronson to bust in at any moment.
Okay.
Put him up, sicko. Have you ever seen? No, you've never seen 10 to Midnight.
Like what?
My favorite part in 10 to Midnight, Charles Bronson. I'm sorry, you guys, but my favorite part in 10 to Midnight, but with Charles Bronson, is where they arrest a serial killer, and they had found like this fucking like the weirdest looking fleshlight ever, like a 1980s fleshlight in his house, and he's like, "What's this for? You use it to jerk off, don't you?"
So I have a question about this scene. Okay. The guy that like runs the theater or whatever, he says that she rented out this theater.
Well, okay.
So my question is, if she rented out the theater, okay, she rented out the theater to meet Eddie, whatever, that's fine. But why were there not cops that are stationed there?
I don't know, because the two cops, which by the way, I've already told the lie, we do get to see a little bit of police before Slim Pickens
I'm not
later
counting
on.
them.
But the two cops are on their way. It's like no one decided to call the cops at all. I thought you were going to say, how did she afford to rent out the whole porn theater?
Oh, no.
Oh, okay. 'Cause
No.
I was
The
like,
station will pay for that.
I was like, we have a porn theater and it's not that expensive.
No, the station will pay for that, but why would they not have the cops there?
Yeah, I don't know. That's the weird part.
Why would they not have cop backup
That's what I
when
mean.
she's going to
That's
meet
what
a
I mean.
serial killer?
That's what I mean.
Like,
These newscasters are doing some fucking police work, which that's another unbelievable.
right? I'm confused.
It's weird. But Dee Wallace was, if this feels uncomfortable to you, Dee Wallace was super fucking uncomfortable with this porn shop scene. I'm pretty sure this is the sleaziest the movie gets, really. Like, because like I said, it goes from like cop drama to fucking werewolf movie. But she never really went into these kind of places. She'd never been into a porn shop before. And Dee Wallace is from fucking Kansas. So so the unease that you see on her face as she's walking through here, that was real, because this was a real porn shop that they just shot in. They got them to let them shoot their movie in. I couldn't, what a weird thing that would be. Just you're running a fucking sleazy ass porn shops. People are jerking each other off in the back room. Just like a fucking film crew comes in. Can we shoot a werewolf movie here?
Sure.
I guess so. The werewolf ain't going to be jerking anybody off, is he? But anyway.
Because if he is, I need to see
I
it.
need to see it. Is the werewolf going to fuck her? Anyway.
Why are they from
New York?
Yeah.
Because it's New York. I assume it's New York. Do they ever actually say?
Yes, somewhere in Connecticut.
Oh, this is in Connecticut? This
Yes.
looks like fucking New York. I don't believe this is Connecticut.
They said somewhere in Connecticut or something. They said something about Connecticut.
I feel like this is straight up New York. But anyway, this is kind of along the lines of what kind of happens in the book. Because in the book, Karen gets raped in her apartment building. I don't know if that would have been a great start to our werewolf movie. It feels weird. But anyway, so this is kind of like an easier digest because he is real rapey about the whole situation, man. Like,
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to set your body on fire, Karen.
Why?
While he's showing these fucking films like that are like fucking rape videos. That's weird.
Yeah, these S&M.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
weird. Which, by the way, Joe Dante and crew filmed those themselves,
Oh.
like to put them on there. And they were like, we thought it was going to be fun, but it wasn't fun. It was really weird. He was like, and everybody was cool. You know, it was all of us fucking around. It wasn't real. He was just like, it just felt weird.
Right.
We didn't like it.
So the next day or so, two people from the news station go to investigate Eddie's apartment. This is Chris and Terry.
Yeah.
And they find all kinds of things about Karen, and there's pictures of wolves.
Yeah,
and
Eddie's a little artist, you know. It's quite nice, the stuff he's drawn.
nice.
Disturbingly nice.
There you
I don't
go.
know what you're going with. I
Okay.
don't know. I'd hang it up.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, it's
anyway.
not a Warhol, but I mean, it does look pretty good.
Okay, the drawings are nice, but
Yeah,
like
yeah.
creepy. He's stalking this news
Is
anchor.
it bad?
and-
Would it be bad to own a piece of serial killer art? Like if one of the serial killers, like, well, John Wayne Gacy did paintings, but apparently, like from what I hear, some people have bought those and burnt them. And I'm like, I don't know. I'd probably hang a John Wayne Gacy on my wall.
Did he kill children?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh God.
Then why would you want that on the wall?
See, but isn't the novelty of it kind of, well, I don't know. Maybe I'm just fucked up.
I think
it's
so.
not like I'm celebrating a child murder. It's just like, look,
That's-
this is a serial killer's painting. Isn't that fucked up?
That's celebrating him.
Oh,
That's honoring him.
yeah. That's a good point. Okay.
I think you need to see someone about this.
I don't know. I kind of want one. Like I want one, but I don't want to tell anybody about it, you know? Like I could imagine them walking into my house. Oh, that is a pretty clown painting. Where did you get that? Pier 1?
Anyway, so they decide they need to take this to the police, but they end up taking the drawings to Dr. Wagner,
Yeah, Wagner.
and he says that this is pretty normal for a serial killer, and they say that they're trying to get a special called The Mind of Eddie Quist.
So our doctor here, George Wagner, this character played by Patrick Macnee, which who listeners may know from A View to a Kill and Basil from the Avengers TV series. But he's named after the original director of the 1941 Wolfman, you know, The Wolfman, which we should have covered this month, but we're not, because we're covering my favorite werewolf movies, and The Wolfman is not one of my favorites for some sad reason. I love it, but it's not my favorite. But anyway, a lot of characters in the film are actually named after horror film directors, like Bill, who you confused. Didn't you confuse Bill for Tom Atkins?
He looks just like him, okay?
It's not. You were like, doesn't he just look like him? I was like, yeah, but you know, Tom Atkins and this guy, they all came from the same generation and they all kind of looked like that. They're all mustachioed, feathered hair people. Like this was just a general look.
Well, he looks just like Tom Atkins, okay?
Bill is named after William Neal, and he's the director of Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman. And not just that, but there is a whole classic feel to this movie, aside from all of these people being Wolfman directors. But I mean, at this point, it's a classic itself, you know, The Howling, but it's definitely a tribute to classic horror, especially with the score, which you pointed that out. Like you kind of pointed this out while we were watching it. You were like, I really like how they're using the organ in this movie. There is a lot of organ.
God dang it, you've done it again.
What?
Made me notice things in movies.
I know. Brittany is starting to notice stuff. And that's very difficult for her. Because I remember like when we first started the show, you were like, what? They did the what now? There was music.
There was music. Sometimes I am like that.
Yeah, sometimes.
There was music.
Well, especially when the scores aren't really anything to write home about, you know.
Right.
But Pino Donaggio does the score here, which is gorgeous. And yes, he used that orchestral, like horror melody kind of woven throughout with the organ, which gives it just that classic feel. You know, I think I like that because the Howling, even though they were done around the same time and released the same year, the Howling feels like a much more classic version of a werewolf, even though there are updated werewolves in this movie by 1981 standards.
Right.
But it feels like a much more classical version of a werewolf than what we got last week in American Werewolf in London.
Right.
I got a question for you. We'll talk about what the werewolves look like here later, but who would win in a fight? American Werewolf in London werewolf or the Howling werewolf? Which one do you think?
The London werewolf, of course.
Does it not
The
seem
one at
more
the end?
It just seems faster, I think, is what the problem is because it's walking on four legs, you know?
And like bigger, like meaner looking.
You're right. The face on an American Werewolf in London, that thing's fucking scary.
Yeah.
If you saw that coming out of you in the fucking middle of the night, the whole fuck that. I'm shitting myself.
Right.
I'm shitting my pants.
And it doesn't help the werewolf that we get at the very end.
Right. You're right.
That doesn't help the situation.
I do find the ones in this a little bit more brutal.
Killings?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I feel like these ones are a little like these ones aren't just gonna eat you to death. They're gonna fucking like fuck you up. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, we get to see it later. You know, he like rips a person apart and they keep this person's body like it's a fucking decoration throughout the rest of the movie, which we'll talk about it.
Karen has lots of PTSD-ish stuff from this happening, and it's also causing her to have issues being intimate with her husband. Karen then goes to tell her side of the story on air, but when she is supposed to start talking, she freezes up and has to get escorted out.
Yeah, which they're kind of dicks about it. The main, the programmer is. Now, Karen basically stays traumatized through most of the film, really, I feel like. And it doesn't get much better for her. So the producer who cuts away from Karen when she freezes, like I said, it's kind of a dick. He's a dick throughout the whole movie, and he plays a dick character so fucking perfectly. And that's Kevin McCarthy. And he's been in a ton of classic movies, including Piranha, when we did that Joe Dante movie. He was in that. He was the crazy doctor that they find.
So everybody from Piranha is just in this movie?
Oh, man. When you're dealing with Joe Dante pictures, you got everybody popping up.
Okay.
It's interchangeable casts. But which is another thing. You know, people bitch about that nowadays. It's like, why are they using the same actress for this and that? Like Rob Zombie using his
I knew
wife.
you were going to say that. Yeah.
And people bitch about that, but I'm like, dude, directors have done that since the beginning of fucking time. I don't know what you're talking about.
Have you met Adam Sandler?
Yeah, well, Adam Sandler just finds vacation spots and has his friend come with him.
Yes.
I wish I was Adam Sandler's friend. I'd be in all his movies and shit.
Right.
I don't know. We're gonna have you be the janitor. Ooh, I don't know why he's talking like his goofy voice. He doesn't talk like that normal.
But why would you not?
Well, that's why I don't get the hate on Adam Sandler, because it's like, you know what? He's still rich as fuck, you guys.
Or even Rob Zombie. Like, why would you not want
cast
to?
Your wife?
Right.
Like, she's there. She's obviously like affordable.
Right.
And I believe they're a team, you guys. So I think they work together. So I think it's a package deal. It's not like.
And is there anything wrong with that? Like,
no, she's fine for what. It's a Rob Zombie movie, you guys.
right.
What are you expecting?
And who doesn't want Sherry Moon in a movie? Have you seen her legs?
Dude, Sherry Moon is like the hottest person alive, especially like as she's gotten older, like because she wears less makeup now.
Yeah.
And like she's just aging gracefully. And it's like, oh. Anyway.
Okay.
This is a werewolf movie. Gotta jump back to this. But yeah, so you got Kevin McCarthy here. He's an awesome character actor. And there's a lot of good character actors in this film. I know you may not know a few of them, but later on you get John Carradine as an elderly suicidal werewolf. My teeth are shot. Fuck this. And then you got Kenneth Tobey. And then, of course, you got Slim Pickens. A Slim Pickens werewolf, you guys. We get a Slim Pickens werewolf.
Is that the officer guy?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
the cop, the sheriff of the town.
Sam.
Yeah, fucking. He's introduced by throwing tennis balls at everybody. Oh, you guys need a retriever. Werewolf joke number 2052. There's so many werewolf puns in this fucking movie. You probably missed them.
All of them.
That's what I mean by it deserves a repeat viewing, because you'll be laughing your fucking ass off.
I don't know if I believe you.
Slim Pickens eats a can of Wolf brand chili later on. It's right there.
Why would he not?
Exactly. That's why. That's why
this isn't a Hormel movie. This is a wolf movie.
That would be really weird. If he was eating a Hormel can of chili. Now that's some weird meta joke that I would not get that.
So Karen goes to see a therapist and she doesn't remember anything still. And the doctor recommends that she goes somewhere called the Colony to stay for a week or two to recharge her batteries. So Karen and her husband Bill drive up to the Colony, and everyone is a little goofy. And Karen isn't very comfortable. She's ready to go home.
It's like everyone's a cross between like backwoods and fucking like quasi biker. I don't know. It's really weird. You don't get like a good like lock on any of these people. They don't seem like they should be together, but they are, because well, they should be because they're werewolves, as we find out. But
so Bill meets a woman named Marcia, and I gotta say, this is the most loyal man I've ever seen. He says he's looking so she's kind of like staring him down, and he's like, I gotta find my wife. And he doesn't even like look at her.
I gotta find my wife. I am married.
Right?
I am a married man.
But
oh, God.
It wasn't even like weird. He was just like, okay, you're a person standing in front of me. And yeah, you're the hottest person here. No, he doesn't even look at her like that.
No, he doesn't.
He's just like, I'm trying to find my wife, and walks off.
Which I think we're led to believe that she like has powers of seduction and stuff like that. But if you walked in and saw Elizabeth Brooks, who plays Marcia here, you're not going to need the power of seduction.
Right. But he doesn't, at the beginning of this movie, he doesn't even look at her.
See, this is why we don't get invited to colonies of werewolves. Like, because we'd just be like, hey, you want to try to get a threesome with that fucking werewolf lady? That's fucking hot.
That was really creepy. Like, we're not that creepy.
You wouldn't fuck a werewolf with me?
Okay, but we wouldn't. We don't need to tell people we'd have that conversation.
I mean, it sounds fun. I'm just saying, threesome with a werewolf, that might be okay. Like,
I mean, we've had threesomes with worse, so.
Oh. No werewolves, sadly. But anyway, by the way, we got to talk about Elizabeth Brooks, right?
Well, yeah.
Elizabeth Brooks, who plays Marcia here. Now, Brooks was a Canadian actor, and she began acting at 5 years old, stage and screen. Now, by the mid-1970s, she was appearing in like television shows. I think she did, I think it was One Life to Live or something. There was a soap opera she was on constantly. And she was doing roles and working all at the same time while being a single mother. You know, so she was a worker, man. She worked her ass off. She wasn't just an actor, though. You know, she was an accomplished writer, a poet, a singer. She wrote and directed a few stage plays called Orphan Dreams and Orphan Dreams 2. Now, of course, this is the role that she's most known for, obviously. Yeah. And she only has like a few lines of dialogue throughout this movie.
She doesn't need any more than that.
She doesn't need it. And she's one of the most memorable parts of this movie.
Yeah.
That's what's amazing.
I mean, you know why, right?
Like, you're looking at me like, what?
Duh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course she is.
Did you see what I saw?
I saw what you saw, yes. Brooks, Elizabeth Brooks sadly passed in 1997 after a battle with brain cancer, which from many accounts, she fought to the bitter end of that one. But you should take time to look up her works. You could do a whole episode on Elizabeth Brooks. She's a very interesting person. And we get to see her nude in this movie. So.
Okay, you didn't have to say it. We saw it. We said it. Yeah. We said it without saying it.
You're right. Werewolf threesome.
Yeah.
It's on the bucket list.
Did we turn into werewolves when we have this dude?
Well, I feel like you got to keep up. Yeah. Like, I don't got the stamina to fuck a werewolf. That ain't going to work. It's just not going to work.
Can you bite me a little first,
Yeah,
please?
I'm going to need some strength, some werewolf strength. I ain't got that. You're going to be like busting in my pelvis or something. I got to have that werewolf power.
Anyway.
I just pictured myself naked talking to a werewolf lady.
Anyway. So as they're all sitting around this fire, a man named Earl is going to jump into the fire because he says that he needs to end it.
Which, by the way, he yells, I want to end it now. Let me burn. I was like, well, that was me back in 2020.
Dr. Wagner convinces him otherwise, and Karen seems freaked out by this.
Mm-hmm.
Also at this party, we meet Marcia's creepy brother, TC.
TC is begging for his own spin-off movie, man.
He's an interesting fellow.
He is. That's what I mean by, like, it feels backwoods-ish, but no one's really talking like it is.
Especially with TC.
Yeah, you expect this guy to be like, well, hello there. You know, like, but he's really not.
Right.
All these werewolves are very well spoken. But to me, like I said earlier in the show, you know, the Howling is a bit ahead of its time. With the humor, especially. Once people realize werewolves are involved, it's not questioned, like I said. You know, there's a lot of meta things where it's like people are aware that they're in a werewolf movie. But there's little in-jokes, like we said earlier, the Wolf Brand chili. And then even on one of the reporters' desks earlier on, you see Allen Ginsberg's poem, Howl. There's just so many little in-jokes like that. Like on their wall above their bed, Bill and Karen, there's a fucking portrait of like wolves eating sheep. And also there's little stuff that doesn't even relate to werewolves that makes it funny. Like the penny pitching scene with Roger Corman earlier. But there's a lot of that. Like the names of a lot of these characters are all fucking directors of wolf movies. Right. It's like Joe Dante, in every one of his movies, he packs so many references and stuff and little nods and jokes and shit. And his humor is, you watch his movies one time and you might not think they're funny, like The Howling. Right. Like, for instance, you can sit here and watch this, and it's a pretty scary movie. I think they do a great job at scaring you. Well, because Brittany's looking at me. We'll get to what you feel later. But I feel like what he does well is he has, like, the way the movie carries itself is a light. It's very light about itself. It doesn't take itself super seriously.
Okay. I'm listening to you.
That's what I said. Maybe you need to watch it one more time to see. It carries itself kind of light because there's like moments of levity spaced out perfectly with the horror. Like there's jump scares throughout this, but they don't feel like cheesy jump scares. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I get that. Yeah.
So it is a scary movie. So you could watch this and see just a regular horror movie about werewolves, and then you'll watch it again and see the little jokes and the satire and all that stuff worked into this. And like I said, it's very funny. But, you know, that's Joe Dante's style, like I said. Piranha's the same way. Gremlins, of course, Gremlins. Like, that's almost on the nose, the comedy in that one. Did you pick up on any of, like, and I'm not talking about the straight-up jokes that are in this movie, because they're there. I mean, those things are on the nose. Like, fucking later on, you get John Carradine talking about the UFOs. And Noble Willingham, who's in this movie, he's like, well, how about you keep an eye on the skies there? That'll be your job. Yeah. You know, that kind of humor's there. Yeah. But like the other stuff is kind of, I don't want to say underground, because that makes me feel like I'm calling people dumb if they don't find this fucking movie funny.
But you have to be aware, and I was not aware.
And that's what I say makes this movie self-aware.
Right.
Long before other movies started doing that, before that was popular.
Right. So anyway, later that night, Karen is asleep and she's having a nightmare about Earl. She goes...
Anybody would have a nightmare about Earl. Fucking John Carradine looks like fucking death in this movie.
Well, she wakes up when she hears something, so she goes to the window and she's hearing howling. A little later, she goes outside and she freaks herself out because she's hearing all of this. And when she goes inside, we see that TC is watching her.
But he is creepy as fuck, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
I think he's the creepiest werewolf of this movie. Well, Eddie's up there. We'll get to Eddie in a minute.
Right. But the next day, Karen is playing tennis and an officer Sam an officer named Sam comes and says that he got a call about a coyote problem.
And Slim Pickens, of course, who we've already mentioned, who rode the bomb in Dr. Strangelove. One thing you'll notice by the end of the film is there are 2 camps of werewolves in our movie here today. Some that are fucking obviously werewolves.
Right.
I mean, you can tell the werewolves right up on the bat. You immediately think Marsha's a werewolf or something. Although we don't really, I say that. I don't think it was a mystery that this was a werewolf movie when it came out. So, it's called The Howling. But anyway, and some who are much better at hiding their evil ways, which I really like that. I like the fact, the doctor, with spoilers, everybody, for example, just because we don't ever see him turn into a snarling werewolf doesn't mean he isn't the same threat as Eddie.
Right.
In fact, I think that makes him a little bit more dangerous. You know what I mean? Because he can hide and he seems like such a well put together person, because as we come to find out, he's trying to have the werewolves live with humans, which doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, I got to side with John Carradine on this, where, John Carradine later says, oh, there are cattle, humans. I'm like, well, it's got a point. I don't know if werewolves could coexist.
Right. Right. Donna, the friend here at the tennis court, wasn't expecting that.
I didn't. When I first saw this movie, I did not expect Donna to be a werewolf. I thought that maybe this was because, again, most of these people are werewolves, but I assumed maybe they lured Donna in too, and maybe Sam didn't know, because you don't necessarily expect a Slim Pickens werewolf, but he's there. But I feel like, a lot of good villains are like that. They can mesh in and like.
Oh, yeah.
Really,
blended.
really,
yeah. So Chris and Terry are visiting the morgue to see the body of Eddie. In the beginning of the movie, he got shot, whatever. And they're trying to get as much information as possible. But when they check on when the coroner or whoever, the mortician, opens the freezer.
Yeah.
Eddie's gone.
Eddie's gone. But by the way, this is John Sayles here, the writer, in a little cameo, which we get the usual look at this mortician being able to eat with dead bodies. That's a trope to this day. I'm not sure if that's true. I mean, you hear people talk about, my uncle was a he was a morgue worker, and he was eating sandwiches right next to the dead body. And that's a question I got. Why is it always they're chowing on a big ass sandwich? Or a big burger. Like, he's eating a burger. It's right next to a plate of brains, which.
Well, I mean, it'd be kind of hard to cut into a liver and be eating spaghetti and meatballs at the same time.
I know, but I kind of wish it was that, I wish for once, because every time you see a morgue worker, they're always eating a big ass sandwich,
Because it's easy to hold a sandwich in one hand and cut with the other.
But I want to see somebody eat some chicken parm with pasta, just hang on, let me cut my steak. This is a big old glass of wine.
Pick up the wrong knife to cut your steak.
I can't cut through the steak. I made it a little tough. Hand me that bone saw. It's dirty.
I don't care. Little blood never scared me.
But you really do. You'll notice this as we go. Well, we've been through a lot of horror movies. Not a lot of horror movies with the more, the morticians.
Right.
But when you see them, they're always fucking eating. It's always an in joke for these movies.
So back at the colony, Karen and Donna go to investigate weird noises in the dark. Dumbasses. And they find a cow that has been killed. Then 2 officers scare them and say there is another one down the way. And they say, it doesn't look like coyotes. Kill them.
Yeah.
Then the next day, the men go out hunting. And they're going to go on a wolf hunt because they think it's wolves killing these cows. And I got to say something funny. They're using TC as a fucking bloodhound.
Yes. You pointed that out, which I was like, hey, you noticed.
They made it very obvious.
Well, yeah. And that's what I mean. There are some jokes that are obvious.
Oh, yeah.
Like a TC being the bloodhound is quite the obvious joke.
Yes. And he's just walking around sniffing shit. Like, what?
No one questions it. That's another thing. It's like no one really questions it. It's just like, yeah, he's our bloodhound. Fuck it.
Right.
Why do we have no dogs on this
And
island?
Earl's over there looking for UFOs. Like,
that's what I mean.
You got maybe 3 men that can fucking hunt a wolf? why are they doing this? Bill's never shot before. He's having target practice. So while this is going on, Karen is having a group with Dr. Wagner, and she's telling her story of going into the theater with Eddie. And she says that she still can't see him in her memory, though.
I feel like I like Karen's character, but like, how do you feel about Karen's character? Like, do you feel like, I don't know, man. She's the least. I'm sorry to say, I love Dee Wallace, and I think she does a fantastic job in this movie. But I feel like Karen's the least interesting character.
Yeah, I will get to all of that at the end. I have
something to say about that. Okay.
I have things to say.
I mean, she's interesting. Don't get me wrong. It's just, I don't know. Back on Eddie for a second, you know, that calling card he leaves, which is the classic smiley face sticker, which now this thing, if you don't know, it was like big back in the day. The have a nice day sticker and stuff is everywhere in the 70s and stuff. And they decided to take that thing and kind of turn it into something awful. Because it was so kitschy. And so now this smiley face sticker, especially with like horror fans, that's the Howling sticker. Like when they first released this on DVD, it came in like a special collector's thing, and the sticker's right there on the box.
Oh, that's cool. I don't know. I've been really into collecting stickers lately.
You have been. It's been very interesting.
So Chris and Terry are at a bookstore looking for more information on possible body snatchers. And Chris says something about the full moon, and the bookstore owner says that the moon thing is bullshit and werewolves are shapeshifters and can change whenever they want to. And Chris ends up buying 2 books from him.
Which again, you know, yes, we do get some like little info about werewolves, and it kind of explains what they are in this movie. Mm-hmm. But they do it in a good way. You know, we're not taking like years to do this. And it's kind of humorous coming from Dick Miller here, who plays the bookstore. And yes, his name is Walter Paisley in this movie. Walter Paisley and everything. You know, he started out in A Bucket of Blood as Walter Paisley, and he played this character from then on out. Like even in Chopping Mall, when he has like a little bit part as a fucking janitor that gets killed early on, he's Walter Paisley.
Why?
It's just a little in joke. That's what I mean by like, there's a ton of this in, you know, you might have like in Chopping Mall, you might have 1 or 2 of these things, you know, these little in jokes like Walter Paisley and stuff. But in this movie, it's packed to the fucking rafters with this kind of shit. Yeah. I don't even have time to go through it all. This would be a boring episode if I did. But of course, you know, this is Dick Miller, you know, playing Walter Paisley. And now we covered him in Piranha, but of course Dick Miller is in all Dante's films. And this, he said, was one of his favorites, you know, to work on. Okay. I feel like a werewolf movie would be a lot of fun to make.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know, something about it. You can be as brutal as you want, I feel like, you know, and just making a werewolf, which no one makes a physical fucking werewolf anymore. We just got a lot of fucking CG wolves running around.
Yes. Not as bad as Twilight.
Fucking Twilight.
You want to watch Twilight again with me?
What do we want to, what should we make these werewolves look like? Oh, I don't know. Just big fucking dogs. Well, should they be mean? Not really. Just have them talk to each other telepathically.
Right.
And let us hear it. So it looks like a fucking episode of Power Rangers. Did I ever tell you about watching that when the werewolves are first introduced? Because my ex-wife took me to all those. I saw all those in the theater.
Yeah.
Imagine me sitting through all those in the theater, just getting more and more pissed off. Just the only thing holding me back is popcorn, because I love popcorn. So I was happy, but I only went for the popcorn. But like, there is a part where they first start talking to each other, and like the Jacob werewolf, he's like delivering this big old speech. He's like, I am the son of a chief, and like shit like that. And I couldn't hold it back anymore. I just started fucking laughing. Oh, I was cackling during this part. And I guess it was an emotional part or some bullshit, because everyone in the theater is just staring at me.
Oh, yeah, they're pissed.
I'm just like, oh, sorry. I gotta go to the bathroom. Just get up and leave.
Oh, I bet you didn't go back.
No. I stayed in the arcade.
It's night now, and Bill has killed a rabbit. Well, TC tells him to take it to Marcia and she will cook it for him. So he does, and she says she will cook it later. and she kisses him. He kind of starts to kiss her back, but then he gets mad and leaves.
How mad would you be if I came home and was like, I kissed a werewolf lady?
Well, that was before he knew she was a werewolf.
Okay, good point.
Yeah.
But I kissed that lady that we saw.
Well, our situation is different.
Oh, yeah, right.
We
We
can't-
just talked about having a threesome with a werewolf. What are you talking about?
You're not asking the right people.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. That's a terrible question to ask us.
Anyway, so when he's walking in the woods, he gets attacked by a werewolf, but he is only injured.
Mhm.
He doesn't die. And then Karen and the doctor help take care of his wounds because he goes back to the cabin or
Mhm.
whatever. Well, Karen ends up calling Chris and Terry to come help because of Bill getting bit. And Chris tries to say it was probably a dog, but Terry thinks it was a werewolf. I mean, she doesn't say that, but we know that's
like I
exactly
said,
what she
yeah.
thinks. Because she was like, bit by a wolf?
It's a werewolf.
So Terry goes to the colony and Chris stays back because he's got to turn some stuff in. And Karen tells Terry about Marcia and thinks that she's trying to make moves on Bill. What did she say? Oh, no, that's later on. Never mind. And Bill ends up eating meat, even though he's a vegetarian. He's like, oh, I'll eat anything if I'm hungry enough.
Which he is getting down on this meat, man.
He's got like a fucking turkey leg. I would get down on a turkey leg too. Damn.
Oh, right. Fuck. I could go for a turkey leg at any time of the year.
Oh, yeah.
So last week we talked about An American Werewolf in London and its London setting, of course. Well, we are out of the moors and into Mendocino, California, where The Howling was shot. I am a huge fan of the aesthetics of this fucking movie, man. The forests and stuff,
yeah.
it's beautiful. The trees especially. We have a ton of redwoods, which California is known for. And the forestry, it's just so much fun. I feel like this, especially whenever you do a horror movie in the woods, it's so much fun. It's such a neat aesthetic, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And the whole movie has this creepy fear to it that where they take this beautiful location and make it like horrifying, which I appreciate that a lot.
Right.
Now, this movie might also have a close relationship with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The art director on this, Robert A. Burns, he worked on the Texas Chainsaw Massacre from 1974. And if you notice, there are a few props throughout this movie. You see a few bone weather chimes around here, you know. Here and there.
At Marcia's cabin.
Yeah, you see a bunch of bones and stuff here and there. And also, like, if you look closely in Walter Paisley's bookstore earlier on, every time I say Walter Paisley in this fucking episode, take a shot. But if you look closely, there's a corpse in an armchair. And it's the same corpse from Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And like I said, there's just a few bones scattered there.
It's Grandpa?
No, it is not Grandpa. Do you remember when she stumbles into the house?
Grandpa was alive. Never mind. Never mind.
Go get Grandpa, they're werewolves. Who would you think would win in that fight? Leatherface or a fucking werewolf? What am I talking about? Leatherface is just a big special guy.
Anyway.
Look what that werewolf did to the goddamn door. Man, that is the crossover I didn't know I needed. The Howling and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
The Howl Saw. Wait. No, that doesn't make sense. I was trying to ship them together. It doesn't work.
It's the sawing. I don't know.
Anyway, Bill and Karen are going to bed, and Karen wants to have sex, but Bill doesn't, and she gets mad and just goes to sleep. Bro got bit by a fucking werewolf, okay?
You're gonna need to give him some time here.
Right? She's like, we're never on the same page. Yeah, bitch, I just got bit by a fucking werewolf, you dumbass.
I guess they don't know it's a werewolf yet.
But he just got bit by a wolf.
And he's reading You Can't Ever Go Back by Thomas Wolfe.
Okay.
I love this movie so much.
Anyway, so she ends up having a nightmare, and when she wakes up, Bill is gone.
Uh-huh.
Well, Bill meets with Marcia, and we get a full frontal nude from her.
Man.
Yes. And then they do it.
Oh, yeah.
Then we see Bill and Marcia grow fangs as they are having sex, and everyone can hear them howling as they change forms.
Boy, I hope I don't sound like that when I'm coming.
I don't know. It just depends on the day.
Yeah, it depends on how long. But anyway, that's gross. I'm sorry. Dude, I saw this sex scene when I was way too young, and this fucking...
I bet so.
I had such a weird boner.
You're like, wait a second.
It's like, oh. It's hot, but it's kind of terrifying at the fucking same time. It's horrifying because, you know, you're getting the early looks at the transformations and stuff of these werewolves during this scene. And good Lord, they are scary looking because, you know, you get a lot of pre-transform in this area.
That's not what I thought you were going to say.
Premature ejaculation. Is that what you're
Pre something.
They're literally bumping uglies. Let's just get to that. But Elizabeth Brooks was a little upset at this. You know, she never liked doing nude scenes. And so to get her to do this, it sounds like they kind of lied to her and said that the flames of the fire would hide most of her body.
Oh, it didn't.
Oh, it didn't. Like if she tripped, like we would have seen everything, like in her. She is on full display. Which, by the way, you mentioned it. And yeah, we don't get any dong and we barely see this dude's ass.
That's okay.
That's a shame.
We saw 2 of them last week.
That's true.
Wait. That was... No. Okay. One of those was from Ash vs. Evil Dead on our Patreon.
Oh,
episode.
yeah. We get saw full ass and dick of a dead body. But no, like I feel like, I don't know. This movie could have done with more dong. I feel like.
No.
I think every movie, they should make a werewolf with a big giant swinging dong. Imagine how not scary that would be.
Okay, but you see it.
But we need more dong in horror. We really do.
Why?
Because how many of these movies have we gone through where we see tits, vagina, and ass? A lot. But we ain't got no dongs.
I mean, they're not that good to look at anyway.
All I'm saying is if we want to preach we want equality and shit in life, we got to put more dongs in our movies.
I'm thinking we're trying to get away from that.
I don't understand why.
Because there's a lot of dick energy. We don't need to see the dick to know the dick
No,
energy.
I'm not just talking about dick. We need full frontal in every movie of every gender. And I realize I could watch a porn, like you said, but still.
They make porns for horror movies.
But they really should have some full frontal in these movies with some dong. You know, we need to hang some brain in these horror movies. But anyway, I'll cut this. We don't need an hour and a half conversation. All I'm saying is hashtag more dong in horror.
Anyway,
but I think it's a little fucked up that they kind of tricked her into this. I got to say,
yeah,
that's problematic, man. Come on. Yeah. I'm totally cool with anybody who wants to do a nude scene. And even the uncalled for gratuitous nudity, whatever, you know. But let's not lie to people.
Let's not. That seems rapey.
And they talk about this like online and like in some books and stuff I read. They talk about this like it's a funny story. And I'm like, man, that's kind of sad.
It's really fucked up.
Like imagine being told that and then seeing this movie. Because most of the time when you're acting in a movie, you don't see it until it's completed and in theaters.
Right.
Imagine just fucking, oh, hey, there's my vagina. That's awesome. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to see.
Probably why, even though some people were like, no, she chose not to do that second one because of the script and this. And I was like, no, it was probably because she got tricked into doing a nude scene.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that's probably why she didn't return for the sequel. But anyway.
That seems a little rapey to me.
Yeah, fuck y'all. But I feel like, okay, so we talked about sex with werewolves. And I have to bring it up because you got your two sexy creatures of the night. You got werewolves and you got vampires. I feel like those are the main horny monsters, you know, out of the classic monsters, vampires and werewolves. Which one would you rather fuck?
A vampire or a werewolf?
A vampire or a werewolf? This is the kind of questions you get on our show, by the way, everyone. All these other horror movie podcasts, they ain't talking about which one they'd rather fuck.
Because nobody wants to know. Anyway, I'm going to have to go with a vampire.
Yeah, why is that?
Because sex with a werewolf looks very violent.
I don't know. I think it would depend on the day. Like, I feel like a werewolf or a vampire is going to really like seduce you, take the time to get you going and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But a werewolf's just going to go right at it. Like, we fucking, like, you werewolf, like, you fucking. Vampire, making love. Werewolf fucking.
Well, it depends on how hungry the vampire is.
Oh, that's true. That's true, because you might get, okay, yeah, I've never seen a movie where vampires are just fucking. Like, I've seen they have to seduce people first. Maybe it's because the pale skin. You think it's because of the pale skin?
It might be the cold skin.
That's true. That's true. So they got to work on seducing you first before they really get in,
They
like
gotta warm up.
teach you that they're a good person before they fucking do you in and you drink your blood for substance.
I mean, have you seen some werewolves? What's that movie we watched? Or not werewolves. I meant
we've only seen two
vampires.
so far.
No, I meant vampires. What's the one with the dude?
From Dusk Till Dawn?
No.
Oh.
Where he gets old. No, he's getting older. He's got the women that stay with him for a long time. Oh, he keeps aging, but they die. Oh, what is that movie? What is that movie?
I'm drawing a blank, man.
All the women in his life die. And then
Why am I not?
and
why
then he's
can't I
got
think
them
of
in
this?
the attic.
Oh, where we watched The Hunger?
The Hunger.
It was a female werewolf, a female vampire that was doing that in The Hunger.
Oh yeah, and then the men were dying.
yeah,
Yeah, that's right. I
she's
was
putting
like,
them up
I
in
know
the
I'm
attic.
saying this wrong, but dude, in that movie, yeah,
Oh yeah, David Bowie.
yeah,
Yeah.
I forgot that was Bowie. Yeah, him. Yeah,
I'd do Bowie.
Oh yeah,
I'd do Bowie vampire any day of the week.
that's what I'm saying.
But if I had the choice between, because I feel like I wouldn't want to have like same sex with a werewolf. I don't know. It sounds too much. I don't like hairy dudes, so it's just a thing. But but I feel like if I had to choose, I'd have sex with a male vampire and I'd have sex with a female werewolf. I think that's how I would go.
Okay, I'm still not having sex with a werewolf.
No?
Nah.
What about a werewolf lady?
No.
Too much hair picking out of your teeth?
Yeah, and just
This
it just seems that back scratching really is
see,
turning
that does
me
it
off.
for me. That does it for me, though. Like that. See,
Well, that's
I guess we're on
you.
we got different preferences of this.
I
and
don't
everything
like
else.
my back being touched.
Okay, so I'll have sex with the werewolf and I'll find you a vampire. That's what we'll do. This is the kind of quality entertainment that you get out of Night of the Horrorfile, by the way. Anyway, let's move on.
Why do we
We are
have a
spending
10-minute discussion
we are
about this?
spending way too much time. Now, of course, you see the silhouette at the end of this, which is a cartoon basically because of budget reasons. It doesn't bother me too bad. Some people have like claimed, some people are like, "Oh, it just looks so shitty." It's like 2 seconds. And it's fine. Like, I don't understand the complaints. But there is some really good stop motion here and there. Animation done by David W. Allen, and same guy who did Puppet Master. And he was said to be on the same level as Ray Harryhausen, who we talked Ray Harryhausen before. But one thing people often get confused is that we are dealing with female werewolves in this flick. And they get a little confused because some think this is the first movie to depict a female werewolf. That honor actually goes to Cry of the Werewolf from 1944. Plus, there was also Werewolf Woman from 1976, where a woman dreams she is a werewolf and goes out to find men to rip the throats out of. Very, very good movie.
Oh, that sounds like fun.
It's a fun movie. Like I said, there were werewolf movies before the 1980s, but not often talked about, not as popular. It really is the 80s when the second most popular monster, arguably the werewolf, I feel like the werewolf and the vampire are the top. That's your top tier classic monsters.
Okay.
Maybe after that, you got like a mummy.
What about a zombie?
Yeah, I'm talking classic monsters. Zombies didn't really come into like the 1960s with Night of the Living Dead.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you had zombies before Night of the Living Dead, but not the zombie we know today. And the zombie's not really sexy. They smell bad.
That's true.
It's like that date you get in high school that you don't want because the other person isn't dating you,
Yeah.
Like it smells
yeah.
bad. He's slow. It's just not happening. But anyway, there's a lot of fuck talk in this fucking episode. Anyway, But you know, the 80s was the decade, and it was the same decade we got Teen Wolf, and like all these fucking werewolf movies came after 1981, and it just exploded in popularity. These days we still get some awesome werewolf movies, but back in 1981, around this time, vampires were more the popular thing. You know, like vampires have always been like the more popular of the two.
Oh yeah,
I feel like, but you know, I don't know.
Because they're sexier.
They are. They are very sexy. But I just really enjoy a good werewolf movie.
Oh, yeah.
I'm surprised we haven't done them yet on this show. It took us like forever.
Right.
Anyway.
So Terry had recorded the noises that she had heard in the night. And she's out by this, like, is this the fucking ocean? Is this a beach? What the fuck is I think it's the ocean.
Yeah, it's an ocean, the beach. Well, you said this took place. Where did they go in this? I mean, it was shot in California, but I did not catch where they go. Like, does it say a location?
No.
It's just, yeah. I assume it's still in Connecticut. Is Connecticut by the ocean?
I don't know.
Oh, fuck. I don't know my geography.
I don't know either.
I'm sorry, Connecticut people who are listening.
We just never been there. We're uncultured swine.
Let us know. Tweet us.
Anyway. So she's sitting by this water.
Yeah, she's listening. She's listening to the sounds by the water. You know.
Yeah. Well, she's got these pictures and drawings from this book that Chris had bought her.
Yeah.
And she notices that the beach she's at, it has the same horizon as the drawing that Eddie did.
Mm-hmm.
So she realizes that Eddie is from there.
Yeah, he's from the colony. That's our first giveaway.
Right.
Because he did that drawing earlier on, which the doctor said was normal for a serial killer to do.
It's just a fucking drawing.
Is it? Like, anybody draws. Like, I don't understand why that would be normal.
And why wouldn't you draw that beautiful horizon with the mountain and the water and stuff?
I don't picture Eddie really reminiscing about the beauty of nature. I don't. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we needed more of an Eddie story, but I don't know.
We did not. Shut the hell up.
Dude. You're like, just shut up. You're going to speak it into existence.
No, just shut the hell up. Anyway.
Okay, I'm sorry.
So as she's walking through the woods, she hears someone call her name. She finds her way to Marcia's cabin and she's snooping around. She just fucking goes inside. What the fuck? Anyway, while she's there, a werewolf ends up attacking her. She ends up cutting off his arm, and then the arm turns back into a human hand. Really
cool effect, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I really enjoyed that. Plus, it's more about like what Walter Paisley tells us earlier. Take a shot, everybody. But Walter Paisley tells us earlier where they can get their limbs cut off and they just rejuvenate.
Right.
I thought that was an interesting little addition to like werewolf lore. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, because I'd never heard that before.
No.
Well, she runs to the doc's cabin to make a phone call.
Mm-hmm. Now, of course, like with American Werewolf, we have to talk about the game-changing special effects in this, which, yes, Rick Baker, like I said last week, was originally slated to head the special effects on this one as well. But if you remember from last week, you know, John Landis called him up all pissed off. And when John Landis is pissed off, you kind of just go with John Landis. But after initial planning that Rick Baker did, he went to work on American Werewolf in London. So he handed this over to he handed it over to the equally as talented Rob Bottin. What Bottin does in this movie is fucking awesome, man. There's a lot of, I would say between Rick Baker and him, there's a lot. Rob Bottin's effects are more visceral and gory and really like disturbing looking, you know, whereas Rick Baker's effects, I'm not saying Rick Baker's, I'm not comparing the two really, because like Rob Bottin was like a student of Rick Baker.
Okay.
But I feel like, I don't know, the ones in this movie are more gnarly.
Do
you feel that? Are you comparing now? Don't compare the scene in American Werewolf in London where he transforms. That's not fair. It's not fair to do to Rob Bottin.
Why is it not fair?
I don't know. It just feels like the effects in this movie are gooier.
gooier.
Yeah, there's a lot more viscera coming out of these fucking things when they change and shit.
I
like
agree.
that.
There's a lot of slobber.
Yeah,
This
this is gross. So like I said, Rob Bottin did this, and we'll discuss later on, the best transformation in this movie, but the bipedal werewolves and the transformations are amazing, man. I don't know which one I prefer, a bipedal werewolf or one that's on all fours.
I don't know.
The one on all fours is more bestial, I feel like.
Yeah. Like, it depends on how animalistic or humanistic you want it to be.
Right. And these things could have looked cheesy as fuck.
Yeah.
Walking on two legs and shit, which later on werewolf movies would rely heavy on CGI, and it does look bad.
Oh, yeah.
When these werewolves are walking around. But anyway. But we watched this on a giant 4K TV, and those effects still hold up. Like,
it wasn't bad.
Yeah, it's cool. Now this was Bottin's breakout role. This is the first thing he really worked on, which is kind of surprising because it looks so good. He'd go on to do movies like The Fog, The Thing, both for John Carpenter, RoboCop, Total Recall, and Basic Instinct for Paul Verhoeven. And, he even did Seven and Fight Club for David Fincher. Also, he does some awesome work in Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, which I don't think he gets enough credit for. He does some really cool sequences in that. His work kind of lives on forever in all of his film credits. And whether you know it or not, if you're a horror fan, you've seen Bottin's work.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you've seen it many times. And I feel like people don't talk about him as much as they should, honestly. Mostly you hear about Rick Baker, Tom Savini, and of course Stan Winston. Those are the three things that come up the most. But Bottin was just as fucking amazing. Just by going with this. And think about The Thing, even though you didn't like that movie, like the effects in that are fucking outstanding. And, nowadays he's kind of semi-retired and more reclusive. You won't see many updated interviews with Rob Bottin. There's a lot from way back in the day, but not so much now.
I thought he died.
He didn't.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's still alive. But you won't see a lot of lately interviews with him. And it's not, I don't think it was because he, it's not like he got pissed off or anything or left the film industry because, a falling out or anything like that. A lot of these guys get like real depressed about it and stuff like that. I don't think it's because of that, but like when you read about what he did and like the way he worked, he was a perfectionist, like a severe perfectionist, to the point where like when he was doing The Thing, the effects on that movie, he would be so exhausted, they would make him take like days for sleep.
Oh, dang.
Like he would just work nonstop, retouching and reapplying things. And like, I think what happened was, in my opinion, I feel like maybe he just burnt himself out, towards the end. Now, one of the, he's credited, I think one of his last projects I know of was an episode of Game of Thrones.
Oh.
Yeah, he did some work on that. But like I said, it might be because he's exhausted. That may be why we don't see Rob in the headlines much or like on interviews or anything as much anymore. Mm-hmm. But the work, I don't know, man. His work is so fucking good. Even in this. And we'll kind of talk about it as we go. But one of the coolest things is, you hear about a lot of these guys doing these effects and stuff. And a lot of stuff gets touched up in post-production.
Yeah.
To kind of clean it up and stuff, take apart things. They said Rob Bottin's work barely needed any of that.
Oh, that's awesome.
Like what you shot was what he made. Like,
that's
so
awesome.
what you see on camera was what that thing looked like. And that's cool to me, man. Could
Right.
you imagine one of these werewolves in person?
That's kind of weird. No.
They're fucking horrifying because first of all, what's really cool is these things are tall.
Yeah.
I think we should talk about that because most of the time when people make a bipedal werewolf, it's usually about the same height as a human.
Right.
Or maybe taller, but kind of hunched over and kind of, I don't know.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
More
Yeah.
bestial, like we talked about, but
Right.
not so much like 7 foot fucking tall.
Right.
And with like insane strength, like I think that's what makes these things so intimidating. Even though we really don't see like a long shot of these things, of their full bodies,
Mm-hmm.
when we do see that, it's stop motion.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which doesn't bother me. It's only like split seconds of
Right.
screen time.
So anyway, are you done talking now?
I could talk. There's literally I'm working on a series that we're going to do on the show, on the main feed of special effects. So we're going to do probably like a 2-part series on that. Maybe even a fucking 3-part, because this shit, I could talk for days about special effects.
Are you saying I don't have to watch any movies?
You might not for 3 episodes. we'll do.
Fuck.
Yeah. Well, because this stuff is so, this is what I wanted to do back in the day when I was like, because I almost went to, when I was going to go, I told you about living in a trailer and stuff. I don't remember what state, but going, I think it was California, going living in a trailer and shit out there and shit like that, just to go to Tom Savini's school of.
Oh, yeah.
I was going to go to his school and stuff, but I got married to my high school sweetheart and that turned out amazing.
Amazing.
Just saying, kids, kick a few tires before you get married.
Oh, anyway. So Karen wakes up from a dream and Bill said that she was sleeping all day. Well, she sees that he has scratches on his back and she accuses him of being with Marcia. And then she says something about Marcia being a bitch and he fucking backhands the fuck out of her.
Dude, this fucking slap, my God.
It was
fucking Karen gets slapped with fucking misogyny and just blam. And I don't know if we're supposed to feel for Bill.
I think so, because I think that he wouldn't have done this if he wasn't a werewolf.
Yeah, good point. Yeah.
Like, I don't feel like he would have done that.
I don't feel for him. Bill's bland as fuck.
Well, so is fucking Karen.
Okay, good point. Moving on.
We'll get to that.
The slap heard around the world, though. Jesus.
So Terry tells Chris that she had called him from the doc's phone, and she tells Chris that she thinks Eddie is there. And he has her look around for a file on him. And while she is searching, a werewolf comes out and Chris can hear everything. So he calls the sheriff's office to go investigate up there at the colony.
Yeah.
And she ends up getting bit in the neck and dying.
Which, by the way, so when this werewolf comes out, she's looking for the file, and this just fucking werewolf hand comes out and grabs it. I love that.
Yes.
As I've said multiple times through this, because I know someone on the internet is going to send a tweet. It's just stop your tweets, everybody. Put the phone down. Like I said, there were always werewolf movies before this, and after and stuff like that. You're going to get that tweet of, here's a list of 20 werewolf movies that came out before The Howling and before 1981. How dare you? Yes, I know there were, but they were not popular.
Right.
They were not. The only reason they're popular now, because you know of them, is because a boutique Blu-ray dealer has now made them and charges you ass tons of money for shit movies. I love shit movies, but there's no way in hell I'm going to pay $50 for some of these.
Right.
At the time, this was new, man, because you're talking about a movie that came out in theaters and was big. Mm-hmm. Werewolves were, they were just, at the time of 1981, they just were kind of, most of the time, regular animals.
I thought you were going to say regular dudes.
They're just regular guys. I'm tired of these regular fucking Suburbans, werewolves. I'm sick of it. No, like what we get in this movie, they're bipedal beasts and there's an imagination to them, there's imaginative quality, which, by the way, I like that their ears come out of their head.
Yes.
That's an interesting feature. But I mean, take The Beast Must Die. It wasn't a guy in a suit. It was literally just a trained animal. So you had a lot of that going on before this, which can be very good. I'm not saying it's bad, when it's executed right, as we will find out in the film Wolven later this month. But Joe Dante, when he approached this movie, he wanted to be careful using a monster that Hollywood had labeled corny and old hat, because werewolves were at this time, especially the man werewolves, I guess is what you really want to call them, walking upright and stuff.
Right.
They're corny by this time. So if you notice, what he does in this movie that I think is very genius is he hides the monster throughout the first part of the film.
Right.
You start out, which we talked about, you start out in a serial killer movie at the very beginning of this, and then slowly the supernatural gets introduced slowly over time. And I think that's the way to go. The beginning of this movie feels like a slasher, which was more a popular type of movie at this time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of what you want to do.
Karen goes to use the phone and she finds Terry dead. Then Eddie pops up. She's freaked out because she's like, I saw you die.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a silver bullet, was it? Anyway, he says that he wanted to give her a piece of his mind.
Which by the way, Robert Picardo improvised that line because there was a dead point of the shooting where Joe Dante walked up to Robert Picardo and was like, look, we got a dead little section here where there's nothing going on before you say you pull the bullet out of your head and show it to her. And Robert Picardo was like, well, okay, maybe I can, I don't know, say I'd give you a piece of my mind and stuff like that. Of course, right. Joe Dante is like, yeah, go ahead and do that. Let's just shoot that. Right. So like an awesome line just comes out of necessity.
Right. And it's kind of funny because I was like, wait, is he literally giving her a piece?
You were like, is he pulling his brain out?
I was confused, but he sticks his fingers in a bullet hole and pulls the bullet out. Mm-hmm. Then he changes form like right in front of her. And this is like a 3-minute fucking montage of delicious. Him changing into a werewolf.
It is so fucking awesome because you get like the snout coming out. And what's great is they don't really cut away from some of this. Like you see it in like almost real time here. There's no cutaways of the snout popping out. And I was like, good God, this looks good.
And his face is bubbling and
now, this transformation is obviously the best of the entire movie. And it's actually one of the things critics were a little harsh on because once this happens, we don't really see anything like this again for the rest of the movie. And so the climax of the movie gets overshadowed by your transformation scene. Now, the transformation was done with like a fake head with air bladders placed underneath prosthetics on Robert Picardo. So they would switch out the fake head and then shoot Robert Picardo's face with these prosthetics with these air bladders underneath it. And they'd start pumping air through them to make it bubble and shit like that. That's what I meant. Like this transformation, while it's not as... I'll take that back. I don't think this transformation is as disturbing as an American Werewolf in London.
Right.
But I do think it's more, like I said, visceral. Like just the bubbles and shit going on.
Right. Right. But I think the only reason why the one in American Werewolf in London is so, I don't know the word I'm looking for. Fantastic. I don't know. Well, not fantastic. That's not the word.
Well, that scene goes on. It
goes
long
on, but he's also screaming through the scene.
Oh, yeah. You don't get like in this movie, it seems like the werewolves are kind of like, it's not really painful.
Right.
Like it doesn't seem like that to them. It looks like they're having a good time.
Yeah, that they're excited to change form.
Yeah. Which in American Werewolf in London, it's like, oh, fuck, this is really what would happen if you were turned into a fucking werewolf.
But I like that. It's different. Because it's two different kinds of werewolf.
Well, yeah, and that's what I said. I love it that Rick Baker worked on both of these, because he was still a consultant, like Rob Bottin, if he needed advice and like where to go with this, he'd call Rick Baker. Right. So Rick Baker did kind of work on both of these movies. But like, I love it that he worked on both because you have two completely separate werewolves.
Yeah.
But they're both just fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's a lot of fun. And, Rob Bottin, being the perfectionist that he was, he spent an entire day working on Robert Picardo, who plays Eddie. He spent an entire day putting makeup on him to the point where they couldn't actually fucking film anything because they couldn't afford the overtime.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so Robert Picardo... by the way, Robert Picardo was not a fan of this fucking makeup.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was not a fan about being in the chair and stuff. He kind of complained a little bit. He was in a joking way. He was like, I started acting at this age. Got my first stage play, won an award. Now I'm turning into a werewolf. And like people were like, well, maybe you should read the entire script, Robert.
Right.
But this was his first major role, by the way. And of course, Robert Picardo is known for his role in one of the Star Trek series. I'm not very familiar with a lot of the Star Trek series besides Next Gen and the original series. I believe he's in Next Gen as well, but I don't ask me. But I always knew him as playing these weird characters in horror films. Like he plays the devil in 976 Evil and stuff, which was directed by Robert England. But But no, so what they had to end up doing to avoid working overtime was they had to film this scene in an office of Joe Dante's. Just film the close-up of Robert Picardo's head transforming.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
We're like, we don't need to get paid for this. We'll do it over here.
But it is. It is the most memorable scene of the movie, which is kind of funny because we have a whole, like, more movie to go.
Right. So Karen ends up throwing acid on him and she runs off.
Never fails. There's always a jar of acid somewhere close by in these movies.
It's like, what? And when she tries to leave, 2 officers stop her and take her to a cabin where Bill, Marcia, TC, and even Dr. Wagner are. Donna is trying to convince Karen to change. And Marcia is pissed because the doc told her that they could blend in, and she says she wants Karen.
Yeah.
So basically, like we talked about earlier, the doctor's trying to convince them that they can be humans with the humans.
And you gotta wonder, did he bring Karen out to find out that werewolves exist just so maybe what was his goal of bringing Karen out to this?
I had that question too. We're gonna have to get to that in a minute. Like
maybe, well, I do have a theory of this. I just wanted to know your input. Like maybe he wanted to change her into a werewolf and have her go back because she is such a public personality and show, hey, it is possible. We can blend in. Look at this.
Maybe. I don't know. It's very weird because I was questioning that too. Like, why did they pick a celebrity?
Yeah.
To do this? Because she was a local
like you
celebrity.
Wouldn't want to do that. You wouldn't pick someone a little lower on the totem pole, I feel like.
Right. But Dr. Wagner says to Marcia that she can't just disappear because she's so well known.
Yeah.
So Chris makes it to the colony. Oh, but before, I don't know why I didn't add this. He goes back to the bookstore and buys silver bullets.
Yeah,
Does he buy them or steal them?
Yeah, he kind of just leaves some money and like, well, the Dick Miller's like, I gotta get those appraised. What the fuck?
Right? He's like, I need these. So he makes it to the colony and he's looking around and he runs into Eddie. And Eddie starts talking shit about Terry. Then he starts to change and Chris shoots him with the silver bullets.
Yeah.
He then goes and finds everyone at the cabin. And when TC changes form, he shoots him. Then he shoots the doc and the doc is very happy.
I fucking love it because he's like, no, those are real silver bullets. And he walks up and gets shot. And he's like, oh, thank God. I was like, yeah, that'd probably be me. It's like, oh, thank you.
I'm so fucking tired of this because how long have they lived? Like for a long time.
And he's failed. Like the doctor's plan is fucking failed because they're all like, no, we don't want to be basically vegetarian werewolves because you're having us eat cows and shit. We want to eat people.
Right. So the others start to change and Chris and Karen lock them in this cabin and set it on fire.
Now, there was a part of the scene when she first enters the cabin that they didn't really shoot. There was more to this. They had to change it a bit because Dee Wallace, she walks into this barn and in the rafters, there are like 10 topless ladies just standing there. And she was like, this is fucking stupid. I'm not shooting this.
What's the point of that?
Yeah, exactly. And apparently it was either Joe Dante or somebody comes storming onto the set because she refused to shoot the scene.
Right.
And he walks in and he's like, what's the looks up in the rafters like, yeah, she's right. This is stupid. So no 10 topless ladies.
So the wolves escape and Chris and Karen take off in the car. They drive away and almost run into Sam. So they stop. Well, Sam ends up shooting up the car.
Because he's a Slim Pickens werewolf.
Chris shoots at him and then the car blows up just as they run away from it.
Well, of course. I mean, it's a movie.
You
you shot a car, so it automatically will explode.
Is that
movie
a thing?
logic.
Right?
No. I
Okay.
could go out and shoot my gas tank right now. Nothing's going to happen.
So they end up taking the police car, but of course they won't start.
Yeah.
And the wolves get in and, well, one wolf gets in and bites Karen. She shoots it and then realizes it was Bill.
Dun, dun, dun.
And she tells Chris that they need to warn people and make them believe. Okay, calm down, Karen.
Karen has such a different meaning now.
I know.
I feel bad.
It's terrible. My stepsister's name is Karen.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it's very strange.
I feel bad for people whose actual name is Karen.
Yeah,
and
she
they're
hates
not
it.
a Karen. You know
She
what I mean?
absolutely hates it.
Oh, man.
So Back at the police station, Chris and Karen have a plan. So Karen goes on air and starts reading a speech, and she tells the world about this secret society.
Yeah.
And she says that she has proof. And then she turns into a wolf.
So yes. When Dee Wallace transforms, she looks completely different than what we've seen so far.
Yes.
And that was her idea, actually. She thought that, she should look like a pretty werewolf at the end of the movie. So Rob Bottin, bless him, he tried his damnedest to make a pretty werewolf. Like, what are you going to do? And what we get is more like a female Wookiee. I mean, she looks like a Pomeranian at the end of this movie. I wouldn't necessarily call it pretty.
No, I wouldn't either.
I'm not saying this is a part I don't like, because it doesn't bother me. But, I just feel like if she turned into something more hideous, wouldn't it be more effective?
More impactful,
Yeah, more impactful.
So then we see people watching the news, and they're not understanding what's going on.
Yeah, I love the bit of humor at the end. It's definitely poking fun at the way people perceive the news, what they watch on TV and stuff like that.
Right.
Because you have people saying, "Oh, it's a special effect" and stuff like that, and then of course you also have Mick Garris here making a cameo as the guy on the couch who says, "What's this?" Which
he's like, "What?
What is this?"
So then Chris does what he has to do. And he shoots her. The crew automatically changes this, and they change it to a fucking dog food commercial.
Dog food commercial, which I love. Soft, meaty chunks for your.
Really? Did you need to do that?
That was such a.
It was funny.
I don't know. Yeah.
You have no words for this.
I'm still stuck on the fucking Pomeranian. She turns into a fucking Pomeranian.
So then at a bar, the people are watching the news and they're talking about werewolves being real. And then we see Marsha, and she orders a rare hamburger.
This is like the worst hamburger look. This is the worst looking hamburger I've ever seen. But The Howling was released on March 13th, 1981. It was a success, grossing about $17.9 million against its $1.5 million budget.
Oh.
It stayed number one for a week, and it received mostly positive reviews and a good review from Gene Siskel, of all people, who rarely enjoyed horror.
Why did I think you were going to say Gene Simmons?
I don't think anybody was really giving a shit what Gene Simmons thought about horror movies.
I don't know why I really thought you were going to say Gene Simmons.
And Gene Simmons from Kiss enjoyed it very much. You're like, what? I don't give a fuck. But it received, sorry. But Roger Ebert didn't like it. Surprise, surprise. With its great special effects and really engaging story, The Howling catapulted Joe Dante's career. It was this film that got them picked by Steven Spielberg to direct Gremlins. So without The Howling, we wouldn't have Gremlins. Yes, there were sequels. And my lord, does this werewolf movie have a lot of sequels. There have been a total of 7 sequels to The Howling.
What the fuck?
I think 8, actually. I think there's 8 movies altogether, with a 9th movie coming sometime, a remake. Supposedly Andy Muschietti will be directing. He did It Chapter 1 and 2. And it will be on Netflix, supposedly. That's the story I hear, but I don't know. That was announced at the beginning of 2020, so I am not sure where that project is right now. COVID kind of ruined everything, and maybe for the best. I don't know if I
Do we need another one?
Or a remake of The Howling. You don't need to remake this. What are you going to do? But I don't know. The Howling, to me, The Howling is my second favorite werewolf movie. It's got a great mystery to it. That's one of the things I really love. There's a mystery going on in this movie as to like what's a werewolf, who's a werewolf, where they're gonna pop up next and stuff. And when we find out their plan, it's kind of neat. It's very inventive.
Okay.
Well, because it's not just the fucking snarling monster going around. These people have a plan and they're like a pack at the end, which I kind of like that. But we don't get the usual tragedy of like American Werewolf in London, where a dude gets bit and he's got to live with the curse until he dies at the end.
Right.
And I like it where the werewolves can change whenever they want. That's one thing. They're shapeshifters. They can change however, whenever. You know, you see a werewolf in the daytime, which is kind of rare.
Right.
You know, like I said earlier, this movie, you find something new with the humor and just the in jokes and stuff. You find something new each time you watch it. And Rob Bottin's effects are fucking outstanding. Like I said earlier, I could go on for fucking days about those effects because it makes it just like an American Werewolf in London. If you're not keen on the stories and stuff like that, and you don't particularly like this movie, it's still good enough to watch just for that, you know, just to see these transformations and shit. And for me, I don't know. The Howling is a win for me. You know, I love this movie, and werewolves in general are like a horror fan's fairy tale. You know, this is like our fairy tale, and I'm a huge fan of Universal monsters and stuff. And so, I don't know, the monsters that most would say are kind of old school and out of style.
Right.
But I think these, you know, the vampires, your werewolves and stuff like that, I think the reason they stuck around for decades is because you can apply them to each time period that they're shown in. You know,
it's timeless.
Yeah, it's a timeless monster, and they have there's so much story you can do. There's so much other things we haven't explored and stuff in werewolf cinema. And there's so many places to take these things. And I think that's what makes me really appreciate these old school monsters. But honestly, you know, I love this movie, but of course we got to get to it. Enough of what I think. What did you think about The Howling from 1981?
I thought this was the most boringest movie ever.
Boringest. Is that a word? Is it boringness?
I just made
I
it
know
up.
you applied it to this. Well, what did you find boring about it?
The lack of everything.
Well, we expand on that. I gotta know. You know me.
I don't know. I thought like maybe 2 parts were funny.
Okay.
Like laugh out loud funny. And the rest of it was just fucking stupid. Like, I don't understand this, like, love disconnect between Bill and, well, I understand because he turned into a werewolf. Okay. But before that, like, I didn't understand, like, that they didn't really like each other. I don't know. And then Karen, oh my God, she's the most boring fucking piece of shit in this fucking movie. Like, why would you not make your main character more interesting? I don't fucking know. The most interesting character in this movie was fucking TC, okay? I need some more of
Brittany's a TC
that.
fan. She needs the TC spinoff.
Because he's like some like inbred hillbilly kid, and they're not talking about that.
You don't get a lot of hillbilly werewolves, you know? You don't
And
get a
you
lot
think
of that.
you would.
I think it's because werewolves are seen as such like a European thing.
Are there not hillbillies in Europe?
Well, are they called hillbillies? I mean, rednecks technically migrated from Europe. So
I don't know. But it's just there's such long drawn out scenes. I understand the long drawn out scene of the transformation. That's understandable. But did we need even the scene with Terry, like, noticing that they're going to be there? Because then we don't fucking talk about it again. Like, I don't. How did they, like, connect a missing body to a werewolf is beyond me. They barely touch on that. Did we need it? Probably not. But, like, I don't know. It just was.
I'm enjoying this. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, you guys. I don't know. Like, I don't feel like anything is really long and drawn out in this. To me, you know, that's my opinion. I don't feel like much is long and drawn out, but maybe that's because I have seen this so many times, you know, that I get all the in jokes and like the little stuff that a lot of people, well, not, again, I don't want to say a lot of people miss this because I'm sure, you know, some of the people we're talking to have seen this several times and they get it.
Right.
But like,
but me common folk.
You common folk. But I do feel like maybe one of these days, maybe give it a second chance. Just like The Thing, you know, it deserves a repeat viewing.
Okay.
You know, maybe view it again at some other time. Maybe not right after An American Werewolf in London. I think that was the mistake.
I think so too.
I think we really should have started you off this month with The Howling first and then gone on to American Werewolf, or maybe saved American Werewolf in London till last, because I guarantee you because what we're doing this month is all my favorite werewolf movies.
Right.
And I guarantee you none of these are going to hold a candle to An American Werewolf in London. That's why it's my favorite werewolf movie.
Well, then you've done me a disservice.
I think I kind of did. And maybe that's what did it. And so maybe viewing it outside of that context would help at some later time.
Yeah, maybe so. Mr. Evans.
But anyway, so that's The Howling from 1981. We're getting out of 1981. Now I could have done Wolfen next week, but I felt like we need something crazy, right?
Yeah.
So next week,
we're watching Twilight Part 2?
No, we are not watching Twilight Part 2. No, we are watching Dog Soldiers from 2002. You got soldiers versus werewolves. It's action. It's a fun movie. I have a good time with this movie. Hopefully you do too. It's severely British. I'll let you know that.
Okay.
Because again, our werewolf is very international. So you have a mix of werewolf movies. When you really dig into the subgenre, lots of different countries with the werewolf, you know?
Because it's universal.
Yeah, it's universal. Yeah. Just like the vampire. You know, the vampire is very international. So is the werewolf. Not so much the mummy. You always got to start in Egypt, you know?
Right.
The Creature from the Black Lagoon. You always got to have a lagoon, I guess.
I was supposed to say.
But anyway, so we're continuing the werewolf train next week. But maybe you'll like this one coming up. Maybe, because it's a little fun. It's very completely different from these two that we've already done. But anyway.
We'll see.
Anyway, until next time when the moon rises again, as we've said, we said that last episode. It's really weird to say the moon rising. But there's a bad moon rising, you know?
Is that a song?
Yeah, trouble's on the way.
Oh.
Looks like we're in for nasty weather.
Oh. Okay. I believe you.
Anyway, I'm Leigh Evans saying stay spooky.
And I'm Brittany. Stay horrific.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Ow.
Thanks for listening. To get a hold of us and submit your stories, fan mail, and death threats, you can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and nightofthehorrorfile.com. Our theme song was written and performed by John Brennan, used with permission. Find John at shopjb.bandcamp.com and at badtechno.com. If you like what you hear, leave a good review wherever you listen to podcasts, and share the show on your social media. See you next week.